Hi, and welcome to Genre Chat. I'm Sherry Lynn Bispano. We're in for a treat today. We have Angela Ruark with us. Angela writes textbooks, but she does so much more than that. Welcome, Angela. Tell us more about yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me. Well, I am a former teacher and now I'm an educational writer. And I really enjoy writing math-related things. I know, which is crazy. Most people say, if I tell someone that, oh yeah, what do you do? I write math books. They go, ooh. I just see pain and some grimace across their face. But I really enjoy writing math. I love writing educational research articles and things like that.
I admire that because math is not my subject at all. And for you to say math and have a smile on your face, that's awesome. So are you working on anything else? And tell us about your education.
Okay, well, I am a former math and chemistry teacher. I've taught middle school, high school math, chemistry. I've been a long-time tutor as well. I tutor students from all levels, middle school through college. And I've been doing that for years and years, for over 25 years.
You look 25.
Thank you. I definitely not.
Maybe I should get into math. So how did you get into textbook writing?
Okay, well, it actually was a long time desire of mine, which, like I said before, really say, like, what do you hope to do in the future? And I would say, I really want to write math books. And they'd be like, and so, you know how you read a book and you say, if I was writing this, I would do this, 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 and this. And I found myself doing that a lot. And then I had an opportunity come up to do some contract writing for a national publisher. And then that grew into, I did that for a while, and then that grew into writing for them for full time as a math editor and writer. And then that grew into, now I write for math education research and other aspects of education.
So in writing, and not necessarily just math, but writing a textbook, how do you go about doing that? Can you give us say I one day wanted to write a textbook. What's the step-by-step procedure?
Okay, it is an enormous undertaking. And to write, especially something that what a public school would use, or a private school, which is what I've done, public and private school type textbooks. A lot of that depends on your state. You have very specific guidelines that you have to follow for your subject matter, for your grade level. And then within that, there's even more specific, certain content you have to include and certain things you have to do. So for math, it's very specific. So you have a very specific framework. And then you have to also keep in mind who your audience is. And for students, so you write two books. You have a student version, and of course you have to include a teacher version. So for students, you want to write, you have to deliver the concepts that they need to learn. And you also have to kind of build them into it. You have to have the same concept, but different levels of difficulty. You want to write questions that make sense to the students. Mm-hmm. They are, put them in a real world context. You also want to approach different learning styles, different learning levels, because you have such a wide variety of needs within one classroom. And then on the teacher end of it, when you want to give them answer keys with explanations. You mm-hmm. want to tell them, covering this material, we've met these guidelines, so you can trust what we have given you. You want to provide some of the philosophy behind what you're doing, suggestions. There's so much that goes into it. So you really have a very specific framework. But within that framework, that's where you can be creative. So it sounds like you almost can't be creative, but you can. And that's kind of the challenge part of it, which I really enjoy, being creative within that very specific framework.
So each state has their own guidelines?
Yes. Yeah. So
wow.
you have to research. You have to immerse yourself in what they need, what they want their students to learn.
Now, would you approach the state or a school, or how do they know you even have a textbook? Do they ask you to write it, or do you write it and then approach them? How does that process work?
Well, you first you would research their requirements, which are publicly available, so you could know that much, and then you would have to meet with individual schools or school districts and say, okay, here's our product that we've met these standards, and then you let them review it, and then hopefully they will choose your textbook when it's time to buy textbook.
That's a lot of work for hoping that they'll choose it. But a lot of people don't get into textbook writing, do they?
No, but there are us out there that really love it. It's an important thing. It's an important thing. It's an important product that can make a difference in lives and help make teachers' lives easier. So,
yes.
Yeah.
What is the greatest lesson you've learned while writing textbooks?
To critique my own writing. So the way I approach it, and I've kind of, I've gotten better at this over the years, is I have an idea, and so then I get it all down on paper, and then just get everything out that I have in my head, and then I leave it. I have to leave it be for just a little while, sometimes a few hours, sometimes a day, and then I go back and I can reread it with a very critical eye and be tough. So it really takes that fresh perspective to edit your own work, because you know what you were trying to say, so it's easy to overlook something that you can make an assumption that it's clear, but when it really wasn't. So
I understand that. I do that with my writing. And when I speak and teach, sometimes I do that. I think people automatically know what I'm trying to say, or it's already in my head.
Yes.
And you don't convey it on the paper. So I understand that. So
yes.
What advice would you give somebody who wants to write textbooks, not necessarily just math, but other textbooks? I mean, your advice follows probably for every aspect of textbooks, whether it's college or elementary or high school.
Okay, well, I will speak to what I know best, and that is kind of your mainstream public school textbook. And really, to do that, you really do need a degree in your subject, or you need a teaching degree. And teaching experience really helps. That's very important, because you already know what things are effective and what things maybe sound great but don't really work. So.
Right.
Yes, that's what I would say. And if you are a teacher who wants to get into this, I would suggest start with contract writing, and then maybe look up some publishers that you're familiar with and see if they have some opportunities, and I would begin there. And that
are there any books or websites or anything that would help you with this?
Well, that's a good question. I would just go straight to the publisher's website and start. That's where I would go first.
The publisher of the other textbooks.
Of any textbook, that's what I would do. Yes.
So some of them are obvious, but what are some of the differences in writing textbooks and regular books? And what are the similarities?
Well, maybe the process is the same, where you get your ideas out, and then you have to edit, and then you have other people read your work and offer comments, and so that part's kind of the same. And grammar is a huge thing, even for math books. Grammar. Because, and this is something funny that I actually did as a teacher. When teachers and students have a math book, they tend to look for mistakes. It's like this little treasure hunt that goes on, and find one, they're just like, ha! We conquered the math book. We found an error. So you really try really hard to, and there's so many details, especially with math, because you've got numbers and equations and graphs and drawings, and so there's a lot of things that you have to control. So a lot of eyes to edit, a lot of rewriting just to perfect it, to continually, is this the best way to say it? Is this the best thing? Are we communicating what needs to be said in the best way possible? So that part is probably similar.
Now, some people may want to know, is it lucrative to write textbooks? And if so, how do you make your money?
Well, I was part of being part of a publisher is that part. It's, that's a career. So that part can be lucrative. Now, self-publishing, it's just like starting, that's your own business. So it's kind of the same principle.
Cool. Now, I usually ask, who's your favorite author in this genre? But I don't think you read textbooks, do you? Do you read a lot of textbooks? And who do you like? If somebody really, really wants to understand how to write a textbook, who would you recommend?
Ooh. That is such a good question. For math, that's kind of interesting because, all right, if I talk about high school math, there's a couple authors that I know if I see their name on it, I'll know it's a good book. So I would gravitate toward that. Same for the high school science.
And who are those names? You can say those names.
Okay, Ron Larson. He writes college and high school, a lot of college and high school textbooks. And these are math books.
Is it Larson with S-E-N or O-N?
O-N.
Okay, Larson, S-O-N. Okay.
Yeah, so, I tend to gravitate toward his math books. I like his Algebra 2 book is good. Like things like that. I can geek out over those kinds of things. He's got some good stuff, so.
You're fun to talk to because I never thought, I would never think somebody would have so much fun with math, and I love it. I just love it.
I get the best reaction, if you ever tell someone that you're right. I'm writing a math book. Their response is it's always like, ooh, and then I'm just like, oh, it's great, I love it.
So are you writing anything else? Do you write in other genres?
I do. I have some. I'm actually working on my dissertation for my doctorate degree. So that's a big one. And that's nearing completion. So I'm very excited about that. I'm working on a webinar that is math related. I'm really excited about. I'm working on a devotional that involves probability, which I'm extremely excited over. And then I have some other side projects. I do some children's books that are science-based and research I have ongoing research articles. So I have a lot of little irons in the fire. So
writers can use mathematicians in their research as well. If Angie, because
yes.
I know you'd rather be called Angie.
Yes.
If someone wanted to pick your brain about math, because I know many people who write, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, may want a fellow writer, someone who's fun and friendly like you, to pick their brain about maybe math in their book. I'm not talking about math problems, but I'm talking people write about these things. A character maybe having a problem with math or whatever. How can they contact you?
Oh, they can contact me at, and it's a new website that I'm working on, so it's under construction, but my email is info@a180degreeturn.com.
A180DEGREETURN.com. Say that. Yes. A180 degree spelled out, turn spelled out.com.
Yes.
And info. Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
What will they find once it's finished?
Oh, lots and lots of resources for teachers, parents, a lot of education related things, especially math.
That sounds wonderful. I might take my son there because he needs help with algebra. But
oh yeah, we need to talk then. If he needs help,
yes,
right now.
So if any of our writer friends need a tutor, contact her.
Oh, I FaceTime tutored many times. Some of the students I've tutored over the years. As a matter of fact, I have a young woman who is getting ready to be a teacher. I was actually her 5th grade math teacher. But we have kept in touch. I've kind of, raised her as a math teacher all these years, we've kept in touch, and once in a while we'll FaceTime or we'll meet in person and we'll go over some math and things like that. So it's really rewarding. Believe it or not, right? Doing a math book can be one of the most rewarding things. Some of the feedback that you get from teachers and students where they'll say, oh, this was just the most wonderful, lesson, or this book has really helped me. It really can be very rewarding.
Yeah, and it's like somebody who picks up your nonfiction or your fiction book and says, I just absolutely loved it. But yours is a textbook, which is, I just love that you write textbooks. But what do you like to read for fun?
Okay, for fun. Well, okay.
When you're not getting your doctorate, what will you be reading in the summer?
Because that's actually fun. Like, I have fun reading for my doctorate. But anyway, which is super nerdy, I know. I really love to read. I love the classics. Jane Austen is my absolute favorite author. I love to read her stuff. I love the Anne of Green Gables stories. I like to just go back. Sometimes I just reread things that I love. So I really love those two. I'm actually working through Les Miserables right now, just kind of slow, but I'm working on that. I even enjoy looking at antique math books. My husband always seems to find me antique math books at, estate sales. And I have one from, I believe it's 1883. And it's so fun to look at the questions. Like, one of them is something about if so many bushels of corn is something and how many bushels of this. It's really
how fun. I'll have to see, because we live here in New England. We get a lot of yard sales and antique places. I'll look for old math books for you.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
So do you have any parting words of wisdom for somebody who wants to get into textbook writing?
Okay. A few things. You need to know your subject. Whatever you want to write on, you really do need to know your subject. You need to be able to communicate a concept in a way that is easy to understand, yet still has enough challenge in it that, it's going to make them grow as a learner. Mm-hmm. So study other writers, do some research, and then, if you really do want to write, start looking up the publishers and maybe seeing what contract writing opportunities they have.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Angie. This has been fun. And so tell us one more time how people can get a hold of you, and they can get a hold of you for consultation in their book, or,
any
tutoring.
Yes. Yes, feel free to contact me. I'm happy to talk to you and just tell you how much I love math, and I can help you love it too.
So is it info at 180degreeturn.com? A180degree.
A18. Info at A180 degree, DEGREE, turn.com.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, and join us next week for another edition of Genre Chat. Thank you.
Thank you.